Welcome back. I really hesitate to say that I like these books, because Harry Potter is so popular that if I say I like it, then everyone will think that I like all of it, and dress like a wizard for Halloween, and know all the curses, and go to Universal, and do the ridiculous Hogwarts house sorting quiz. I am Gryffindor, by the way, but it's ridiculous. However, if I say that I don't like them, then it just wouldn't be the truth. In short, I think they are very well written, and that J.K. Rowling showed incredible skill as an author. From a storytelling perspective, she got so many things right. It's well crafted, there's symbolism, captivating plot, satisfying promise, progress, and payoff, intricate and intriguing storyline, and amazing character arcs. Now there's going to be spoilers, so if you haven't read the books, go read them first. Okay, let's dive right in. Now I want it very clear that I'm talking about the books today, not the movies. The movies are gross, disgusting, offensive, cheap, ridiculous, pointless, immature, and objectionable on pretty much every level, except the music. Okay, we'll make an exception for the music. That was actually really catchy. But seriously, I watched the movies first, and then I read the books. And it's probably a good thing I did because, the movies are obviously poorly done, but I didn't realize just how poorly done until I read the books. Then it was a rude awakening. I'll try not to go into it too much, but one of the biggest differences that I noticed between the movies and the books is that in the books, the relationships between the characters are absolutely flawless. One little example is when Ginny was crushing on Harry Potter. And, it's at the beginning of the books, and it's kind of cute, but Harry doesn't care about her at all. And then she grows up, wises up, she gets a boyfriend, and ignores Harry. And then Harry's like, oh, wait a minute, I actually really, really like you. It's so perfect. And from my experience in the dating game, it was 100% on point. But then in the movies, they barely mention Ginny at all until the end. And then pretend like she's been there the whole time. I think it's fair to say that in the movies, they show the magic, they have the cool stuff, but they don't invest enough time into the characters. Enough of the movies, let's move on. Now let's explore some of the fascinating themes and symbolism of Harry Potter. One of the central themes of these books is that no one can escape death. And if you know the story, Voldemort's consuming goal, motive, and desire is to be immortal. That's why he sets up the Horcruxes, and especially why he wants to kill Harry Potter, the chosen one. And then at the very end, when Harry does defeat Voldemort, there's your spoiler, the final book, it words it perfectly. Now I'm just going to read it straight from the books because it words it so perfectly. Tom Riddle hit the floor with a mundane finality. His body feeble and shrunken, the white hands empty, the snake-like face vacant and unknowing. Voldemort was dead, killed by his own rebounding curse, and Harry stood, staring down at his enemy's shell. The inevitable facts of death and mortality, this thing that Voldemort feared the most, is what finally defeated him. And the harder he tried to prevent it, the more he guaranteed that it would happen, even to the point that his own curse killed him. Another captivating element of the story is that a piece of Voldemort lives inside of Harry. This connection is why Harry can sometimes see into Voldemort's mind. It's why he can speak Parseltongue. And for me, it created the terrible question of, is Harry going to become bad? Is he going to become evil? A question that is very relatable and that we can all ask ourselves, about ourselves. But then we go on the journey throughout the story and we see that what saves Harry from becoming evil and succumbing to the evil inside himself are his meaningful relationships and the fact that he always confronts and does not conform to evil. No matter what was thrown at him, no matter what was taken from him, no matter how mistreated he was, his goal, his aim was to make the world better and not worse. Even to the point where he would sacrifice his own life to do it. There is so much symbolism in the books, even down to the games that they play, like Quidditch. Jordan Peterson mentioned this in one of his lectures, and I thought it was so insightful. In Quidditch, they're trying to score points by throwing the quaffle through the hoops, but the whole time the bludgers are trying to knock the players off their brooms. This is a lot like life. We're trying to score points, make something of our lives, and the whole time life is throwing us problems and sometimes tragedies, just trying to knock us off our brooms. And then as if that isn't enough, there's another level, a higher game that is being played simultaneously. And that's the seeker that is trying to catch the snitch, the little gold ball with wings that is practically impossible to catch. But if you do catch it, pretty much guarantees that your team wins. How this relates to life is that while you're living your turbulent life and sometimes just trying to survive, you also are expected to strive for something higher. Truth, morals, these things that are absolute gold, the treasures of heaven, that are sometimes elusive and can get away from you if you don't first seek them, and then when you find them, to hold on to them for dear life. The snitch, that if you manage to catch, will guarantee you happiness, which is a rare and valuable win for this life. So, those are just a few of the things I was impressed with. Now, Jordan Peterson has a great lecture that's called The Meaning Behind Harry Potter, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who is interested in the deeper meanings, the metaphysics behind the story. Okay, the ad is over. Moving on. Now, I have heard that there are plot holes to the story. And I suppose it's probably impossible to write a story without having some kind of plot hole. But one example is the time turner that was mentioned in, I believe it was the third book, and then never mentioned again. I mean, it sure could have been handy when, I don't know, Dumbledore died or everyone was dying in the last book, fighting Voldemort. And sure, I can see where people are going with that, but honestly, it didn't bother me at all. I felt like each book had distinctive elements that made that particular book interesting and would drive home the point that she was trying to make. And at the end of the day, the story is complex and interesting enough that I don't feel like it was a problem. And if it is a problem, then I just really don't care. And apparently the hundreds of millions of people that buy the story also don't care. So I guess I'm in good company. Finally, I'm going to end with mentioning that I've personally known people and families that will not read Harry Potter, making the argument that, it's about witchcraft and occultism. And frankly, I don't blame anyone that feels like it's inappropriate for them or their kids to read it. In fact, I grew up not reading Harry Potter for those same reasons. Children are sponges that will soak up pretty much whatever you put in front of them. So if you feel like it's not right for your kids to be exposed to that, then that is totally okay. I am living proof that you can have a perfectly fine childhood without knowing what a muggle or a thestral is. And the books are rather dark. There is murder, witches, curses, and a lot of, what would you say, the things that Deuteronomy 18 condemns. And maybe that brings up the question, why did I read it? Now, I know this is going to sound crazy and it's going to be hard to believe, but one of the reasons was because I'm an adult. I know, it's crazy. But you also have to know that I have spent the last 5 years reading and listening to about as many books as I could get my hands on. It was partly to be entertained, because reading books is awesome, but it was also so I could expose myself to a lot of stories and information and see if there was something that I could learn from them. My reading diet consists of classical literature, Russian novels, fantasy, biographies. However, I did try to avoid any books that I thought were just fluff. I wanted to make sure I was reading literature that had substance and that could teach me about the way people think or teach me valuable lessons for my life. And then, one fateful day, I ran across a video from Jordan Peterson, the one that I recommended earlier, about how accurate Harry Potter was psychologically, or as he would say, metaphysically. And it was at that moment that I realized I might just have to read them. But not just because Jordan Peterson talked about it, obviously. And so here I am, a reluctant fan of a book series that I thought was popular only because it was some kind of hype or fad, and coming away having to admit to myself that it does have substance as a story, and a very well crafted one at that. Until next time.